Hello fellow egoists, today we'll be analyzing chapter 250 of Blue Lock. There's a lot to unpack, so let's just head straight into it. First off, in the first page we have something pretty interesting, which is the theme of water versus fire for both Rin and Shido. Now, Rin's aura has always been water ever since we first saw him, and an important thing is that actually his aura back in the U20 match may also be water. I don't know if you remember, but I mean I'll show the pictures on screen. But these sort of monstrous aura, you could say that they're sort of deep sea abyss monsters. And so I'm wondering, will we see them into this match? We'll surely do, but it's just a sort of food for thought, and also the fact that for Shido, we'll also see his wings and fire. So it's just something pretty fun to see, the duality between both Rin and Shido, with them being both similar in that sense, right, with the elemental theme. One thing I don't like though is the narrative. On the narrative side is how this is written about how Bastard Machine is kind of dumb, really, for not thinking of, oh, they might use both of them. That's like, okay, that's kind of dumb, but whatever. It is what it is. Anyway, now for the second page, we have Shapa, the one of the center backs, then doing the kickoff, which we'll analyze actually, because this is a really great sequence. Honestly, it's one of my favorite sequences so far. And while I was a bit underwhelmed with last chapter, where the action was sort of, how could I say, way too chaotic, in the sense that there was no cohesion. Like compared to the Ubers match, the football was just really low level, but this is actually a pretty great sequence. I'll just break it. I actually made a quick animation of the field. It's not the best though, I honestly rushed it and there's a lot of mistakes. Like I wouldn't show that in an actual field analysis video, but this is just to give you guys a rough idea. So we have then, wait, I'll put it like this. Okay, wait. So we have Shapa doing the kickoff. Wait, I'll just lower this page a bit. Okay, perfect. So we have Shapa doing the kickoff. So you see that he passes to Tokimitsu, okay? When he passes to Tokimitsu then passes to Nanase, who then probably... So for this, it's something that we don't necessarily know. But Nanase either passed to Karasu, and then Karasu passed back to their center back Gabin. I'll just call them in French, I mean I'm French, so fuck it. Or he immediately got the ball and passed to Gabin, which is the most likely option, but I don't know why I drew in the field analysis I made it that Karasu gets the ball and then passes back. Anyway, the important thing in this sequence is that PXG is playing a sort of possession game, which is really interesting. So just a quick idea, the basis of what PXG is doing this is, in this play, is that they're basically making runs with their midfield, so Tokimitsu, Karasu, and Nanase, who drop down a bit. And what they're doing is that in this area, over here, wait, I'll just stop it so I can make a quick circle. Yeah, okay. So the thing is that what they're doing is they're basically forcing Bastard Munshin to show up in this area, basically, in this circle, through those runs that they're making, so through their passing, etc. And an important thing is what Hiyori says here, don't withdraw the defensive line, restrict their options. So basically, Hiyori is saying, don't drop deeper, stay in this position. But the thing is that when they're staying in this position, as we talked about, what they're doing is also leaving space right behind this circle, right? Okay, wait. Let me just delete that. And so yeah, so basically, by going into this position, they're leaving space right here, and this is what PXG will use. So through the fact that they're forcing the Bastard Merchant defense in the midfield, they're creating space for their backline, which will then pass to then initiate the attack by trying to link up with Charles. So this is just like standard football, but it's still pretty. So like it's just great to see actual sort of tactical things, right? So yeah. So as we said, Nanase gets the ball, And then we don't know, I drew that he passed Karasu, but he could also just pass back immediately to Gabin, their center back. And so now, we'll analyze deeper this play. So yeah, Gabin is then trying to link up with Charles over here. So, we'll analyze a bit how Charles beat Raichi. So what Charles is doing in this moment is that first off, he's putting himself in opposition to the state of play, basically. By putting himself behind Raichi, he's forcing Raichi to constantly scan his surroundings. So scan the ball, then scan Charles. So by putting himself in this position, he's already gaining an advantage over Raichi. Then secondly, he immediately uses that to his advantage by baiting that he's going to the left, so over here, near Nanase and Hiyori, which Raichi will take the bait because he's kind of forced into the position, right? He's forced to react to Charles because he doesn't have the advantage by being in front of Charles. He's obligated to focus to whatever is happening. And so through this play, Charles is able to beat Raichi, but the important thing is that Isagi intercepts it, and an important, really important thing is that actually Isagi's positioning, while it's good and it ended up helping get the ball, an important thing is that because he's the right winger and he's more in the midfield, he's actually leaving space for Chapa to use. This is really important and interesting because as you saw, I drew Chapa. Oh yeah, I'll just up the speed a bit. I drew Chapa immediately going on this line, and because Isagi isn't there, it's literally a free highway for him, right? So this is a good positioning by Isagi because it worked, but it could have been highly dangerous. Because if Gabin was able to pass to Nanase and then Nanase was able to link up with Chapa, which is something you see typically with with more like wing backs and their wingers, Chapa could have had a free way into the final third of Bastard München and then been able to do whatever with Rin and Shido. But because PXG is more so about using Charles' playmaking and forcing it, like forcing him to create things, it could work. Though also we have the fact that actually Ness is here. So well, as I said, my animation isn't the best, right? Since I've kind of rushed it. But we could also imagine that Ness was the one who then went on Chapa, though I doubt it. But because of his positioning later into the chapter, we could imagine that he actually was on Chapa and that this situation wasn't as difficult. Now, this may be rough to handle all this information, but I mean, it's just my first time trying it out, so if you guys don't have a bit of an issue with it all, you tell me in the comments, and I'll try to make it a bit clearer next time. I mean, as you're seeing, it's like 1 AM 25 right now. It's just that, okay, just to give a quick heads up why I'm making it this late is because I pulled an all-nighter yesterday, so right now, and I just fell down on my bed and just slept the whole fucking day after uni, so yeah. I just woke up and I was like, yeah, fuck it, I'm making a video. But yeah, anyway, so with this, Gabin is then able to pass through the pressing of Kunigami, which we actually see right over here. With this, he's able to pass to Charles, but then Isagi is able to intercept it. Then we have Mr. Cowlick. I mean, this is not something I'll talk necessarily about. You see Grim cooking Shido, but I mean, Shido isn't that good at defense, right? It's just something we've understood by now, you could say. Though pretty interesting is that Zentetsu is actually closer to the left part of the field, like he's closer to this area, even though he should be around here, which is it's just a quick detail to give. But I mean, it's not as extreme, right? But it's just an idea. Then we have the Kaiser counter, and this is an important thing for me, is that alright, our plan starts now, and this makes me think that, wait, let me put it into full picture. This makes me think that this is actually Kaiser's weapon that was made specifically like to counter Isagi, like his back from the brink weapon. And it works, or at least, I mean, this is supposition, right? We haven't gotten the quote-unquote total confirmation, but it seems most likely because, as I said in a past chapter review, Kaiser's new brink from the death weapon would surely be a playmaking weapon, right? Because this is what he lost to in terms of he lost to in playmaking to Isagi. So his new weapon would surely be playmaking, and similarly, it also works with how much of a coward he is, because right now all he's doing basically is just he's fleeing from Isagi the same way that he fled from Lorenzo. So this would be a this just seems most likely to be his quote-unquote new weapon, right? Like all he's doing is fleeing from Isagi really and forcing him into the defense. Now, one of my favorite parts of this chapter, my second favorite part actually, is Ness's thoughts. He says, so as I said, their plan is to just immediately scoop up loose balls, go on a counterattack, and for Ness to use his last pass with a bit of magic to help Kaiser. But when he is actually put into a situation where he needs to assert himself and to actually, do his thing, he immediately does something that we've already seen someone without ego do, or at least with a certain amount of ego being really low, that being Nagi. What Ness is doing here is the same thing that Nagi is doing. Because Ness doesn't understand his desires, because he doesn't understand his ego, because he's not listening to it enough, he's thinking too much, and he's not using his capabilities to assert himself. As you see, instead of actually following whatever he first thinks of, which would be to dribble around him or to do a pass, etc., he's thinking and he's not acting. He's not acting upon his ego. He's not listening to anything, right? And what he's doing is he's relying on Kaiser. He sees a challenge and he immediately flees from it by using Kaiser. And so there's no magic. Like he says, I'll cast a spell. There's no spell in this. All he's doing is he gets the ball, he sees a position where there's a challenge. Instead of actually trying to get into the challenge, he just immediately passes to Kaiser. So there's a reliance on this. And so you see just Ness fleeing, really. And so this is my problem. And I mean, we'll get into it for the play of Kaiser over here. But why Kaiser is unable to do anything, honestly, and why he was unable to do anything in this play, which we'll talk about. You know what? Let's just talk about it because it goes deeper into everything. As we see, Kaiser is put into a situation where it's basically impossible to score. Right? Two defenders on him, both in a double press, with one defender still in front of the goal. Right? So it should be impossible for him to get into it. And the thing is that it is impossible. Honestly, it is pretty much impossible. But he could have surely made that shot had Rin not been there. But the important thing is that why is he in such a situation? It's not that he's, as he says, it's just what I want, right? But if Ness had actually pulled off more playmaking, if Ness had actually went deeper to break the formation, because the formation isn't broken here, right? Like, the way he already said it in the Ubers match, the defense isn't broken, they're ready for pretty much anything that Kaiser will do. And so it's the same thing, because Ness didn't go further to break the enemy formation, Kaiser is then put into an impossible situation. So the real problem here is once again how Kaiser isn't used. So not only is Kaiser not using the full potential of others, but all others are also not using their, it's just they're not using each other correctly. Yeah, it's just Ness is over-reliant on Kaiser, and Kaiser is over-reliant on himself, right? So yeah, anyway, now to analyze this actual sequence. So yeah, both double pressing coming from both sides. Another defender behind me. So right now, it should be basically impossible, right, for Kaiser to shoot. So, first thing he does, he taps out Karasu trying to put his hands on him to seize up the distance, etc. And the important thing is that because Karasu rushed in first, he's leaving space. Then Nanase goes in second, but because Nanase goes in second, he's blocking Karasu's path, and so Karasu won't be able to come on time to stop him, right? As we see, Nanase, because they didn't press at the same time, it leaves a gap in their sequence that Kaiser can then use. So, Karasu goes first. Kaiser beats Karasu by flicking with his elbow Karasu's hand, so he neutralizes Karasu, and because Karasu went first, there's space on the left, or rather on Kaiser's right, to use, which he immediately does because Nanase here isn't doing his job properly. Instead of trying to just press Kaiser and limit his options, he actually went for the ball. And because he went for the ball, this is what gave an opportunity for Kaiser to then go on the right. So this is something actually I'll try to put the thing, a short talk of Thierry Henry actually about this and why Mbappe is so good. I mean, I'll just put it and hopefully it doesn't get copyrighted, but you'll see.
They are naive enough to open that window, and then if you open the window, we'll step into your house and score.
So tell me how you do. How does this work, Thierry?
This is you can see every time is like going slowly, pushing the ball on every step almost. He's trying to see if you're gonna buy this. But I never understood that with the defender. Why you defend the ball, obviously, and the goal. But you always at one point want to come and get it, or you overstepping somewhere.
Because we don't want to give you time to think about where you're going to go next with the ball. So we're trying to get there as soon as possible.
But that's exactly what they did. They opened that little window. He went in because he has the technique, not only the speed. So he goes in, he generates power on his right foot, on his left foot, and he has the composure to finish it at the end of a game in the Champions League.
So yeah, anyway, so with this, because Nanase went for the ball, it gives space for Kaiser to immediately use to go for a shot. And the thought process for Kaiser isn't wrong, really. In this situation, he did the best he could. He used the Predator Eye, he saw the gap that he could use, went on his 2v1 as perfectly as possible. But the problem is that, as we said, because Ness didn't help to destroy the enemy formation, Kaiser is currently losing all of the time that they gained by immediately going on the counter is being lost, right? And so because of this, then Rin is able to immediately get the ball. Now, people might be mad at this, but this is actually the best, like, this is normal, really, this is normal. It's normal for a striker to drop down and help in the pressing session when the enemy is on the offense. That's just normal, right? And he's not even dropping that far below. That's the thing. He's not dropping into the final third. Right now, Kaiser is much closer to the midfield, really. He's like right before the final third. So he's around here, right? So for over here, rather. So for Rin to drop down around here isn't that mad, right? Because I've seen that some people have been pretty annoyed with this. Now, it's more of a tendency for Blue Lock to make strikers shine, but this is something you could see, especially with like such a double sequence, with such a double press and the whole plan, etc. And so yeah, then we see Rin's aura of water, which I talked about, and I hope we see the deep sea monsters that we already saw. And now another thing also that makes me think that this tactic of taking the loose balls and forcing Isagi into the defense is Kaiser's new weapon, is the way his veins are immediately popping, right? Like, he is mad right now. So this makes me think that this, like, his reaction makes me think that this is actually the... I mean, of course, there's the trash talk of Rin, right? But if he had another weapon up his ass, honestly, he would have probably reacted in a different way. And so, yeah, with this, we're pretty much done with the the chapter. It was more a field analysis, honestly, but then an actual, how can I say, actual narrative side analysis. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. There's probably a much more to say, but I'll just stop there. I've probably said enough. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any other questions or you want me to talk a bit about the chapter further, you can go on the Discord server of the channel, which I'll link below, and you can just ask me the questions there directly or in the comments. And yeah, Have a great one, fellow egoists.